Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Welcome to another episode of Food Freedom and Fertility. You have today a solo co-host, Caitlin Johnson, and I have the beautiful Nataly, who was a member of my Find Fertility course and a longtime listener of the podcast, somebody that has struggled to get pregnant and has a really beautiful success story and victory to share with us today. So this segment is really meant to inspire hope and highlight just different fertility stories. So Nataly, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I just want to share my story.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
very
so
fortunate to
wonderful.
have found you.
Yeah. That as a part of the Find Fertility course, there's a Facebook group that you can ask
Mhm.
questions. And Nataly was always someone that I found when she would come in with questions, she was just like there for it. Wanted all the information, really engaged, like holding nothing back, and has just such like a beautiful positive energy. And I know that that's going to come through today as we share your story. So if you don't mind, let's kind of like rewind a little bit to the beginning. When did you get your PCOS diagnosis? Was that a part of trying to grow your family, or have you known that you've had PCOS for even longer than that?
No, it happened when me and my husband tried to grow our family. I just had this intuition that, hey, I never had a pregnancy scare. I never like thought about having children, but the fact that I've never had a pregnancy scare or something in my intuition was telling me like go get checked out.
Mm-hmm.
I went off of birth control. I was on the IUD. I took it off. I'm very happy they're giving payments because when I got it inserted, it was the most painful thing in the world, and I just read that they are giving payments. So I'm very happy for all the women who are getting that with medication. Um, so I took it off. We tried for 2 months. My period just disappeared completely.
Mm-hmm.
So after 2 months, I was like, "Oh, hey, I'm pregnant." So I went to the hospital to my gyno. She checked me out, and she was like, "Yeah, you're not." Took a test. You're not pregnant. She did a ultrasound, and she's like, "Hey, your lining is shedding. You're about to get your period." And I just told her I don't know what's going on. Like I noticed
Mm-hmm.
all these symptoms right off I came off the IUD. My hair started growing really fast, facial hair. Um, just these mood swings
Mm-hmm.
constantly. I and it was really hard to kind of pinpoint because I'm like, it's just PMS. You hear
Right.
these things,
Yeah.
right? Growing up,
Mm-hmm.
it's PMS. But I noticed that whenever I try to diet, it's just the bloating of it. My I would fall asleep, like I would crash, like just
Like
at noon.
extreme fatigue.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
crash, and I was just a newlywed couple.
Yeah.
So, like I would go in my head and I'd be like, man, he's probably thinking like, what did I get into? Because all I did was sleep. So back to the hospital, we were there and I started telling her all these things and she's like, okay, okay. And she took out a notepad and I was like, okay, she's gonna give me some medicine, right? And I was really against medicine because I'm like, I already know hormones doesn't work with me. But
Mm-hmm.
during that time I didn't want to have a baby. Um, and she's like, she just made a 4 list and she checked them off. She's like, okay, I've always been overweight, but you played water polo and swam through college. So she's like, I'm really concerned about that. Then she said, you're missing your period 2 months, your facial hair. Have you ever heard about PCOS? And I was like, no. She's like, and then she kind of brushed it off. She was like, well, we'll just run these tests. We'll get you an ultrasound. If you have the string of pearls, you have PCOS. But if you
Mm-hmm.
want to get pregnant, just buy an ovulation kit and track it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this was my first insight of like that world of
Mm-hmm.
trying TTC and ovulation kits and all the abbreviations. So when I went online and tried to search it myself, I was just very overwhelmed, and it
Yes.
became like I was a scientist.
Yes.
Every morning, just dipping that little kit, and it was a happy face majority of the time. And we would have sex, and it felt like
Okay, we're
not,
doing the things we're supposed to be
yes,
doing.
yeah, where it's not fun anymore. It feels like a job. We don't like it, but we want to have a kid.
Mm,
Um, and that was for the first year that we were
wow.
doing, because they told me come back in a year.
Right.
And I was like, okay. So we did that for a year. It affected with our mental health. It affected everything, because it seemed like
Yeah.
everything around us, everyone was having babies. The signs got much more larger, right? And I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then as a woman, you go into yourself, you're like, I was brought onto earth to have kids. Like
Right.
that's what we're grown up to be, right? We see all these
Mm-hmm.
women having kids, and they can have a thriving household and be a working mom, right? So I was just like, what is happening? Like I
Mm-hmm.
protected myself. Everyone said it wouldn't affect my cycle. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
trusted these doctors. So I really went through like this mental journey that first year.
Yeah, I
And
imagine.
then,
Sounds really
yeah,
hard.
it was lonely. Like I kept
Mm-hmm.
this doctor just saying, "Well, come back in a year." I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Wait, but all my life I was taught you were there to help me. Like you will give me the answers."
Mm-hmm.
So that's what really got me, and I was like, "Okay." And we did it for a year. I go back on my birthday on when I turned 28, and all the labs came back. I saw them at the string of pearls on the ultrasound. I was just like, "Wow." Like can't believe I was on the IUD. I was still having a period.
What did you Were you on a hormonal IUD, or did you have a copper IUD?
Copper,
Copper. Uh-huh.
copper, yeah. And and I remember copper specifically because I kind of we got into a discussion about it. I'm like, well, the gyno at that time wanted me to get a hormonal. I was like, no, I don't
Mm-hmm.
like hormones.
Mm-hmm.
It's affecting me somehow, but I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
pinpoint it.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like he brushed me off like I didn't know my body well. So I was already like, okay,
Right.
um, I
It,
got the copper.
it's interesting, from the outside looking in.
I want to take a minute out of this episode and talk to you about our partner, Fertility Cloud. We decided to partner with Fertility Cloud this season because we have worked with women all over the nation and we have heard the same issues arise again and again. My doctor can't see me for another 8 weeks. I had to wait 3 months to see a specialist, and even then, they didn't really tell me anything. Or there's no one in my small town that knows anything about my situation or can help me. And that's so common because unless you live in a major metropolitan area or a place that has grand medical universities, and honestly, sometimes even then it's still an issue, it's really hard to find fertility specialists who can give you tailored, customized help for your unique fertility situation. And that, my friend, is exactly what Fertility Cloud does for you. They offer everything you need, but right in your home because it's fully online. Another perk is they often have same day or next day appointments, so no waiting weeks and weeks and weeks in order to be seen by someone. And my favorite thing of all, really the pièce de résistance and the reason we are partnered with Fertility Cloud for this season, is they have a love and a passion for helping families grow. It is why they do what they do. It is why they wake up in the morning. It is why they have this world-class staff who cannot wait to step in and help you along your journey. So if this sounds like what you have been dreaming of, click the link in our show notes and go to fertilitycloud.com for $50 off your first visit.
So it sounds to me like they wanted to investigate PCOS, but kind of sent you on a way for a whole
Mm-hmm.
year before they actually did the ultrasound and extra testing. Is that right?
Yeah, they
Wow.
did. It took a whole year. Yeah.
From my perspective as a practitioner, and I am not an OBGYN, I'm a dietitian. Dietitians don't diagnose, they don't
Hmm.
write prescriptions. Like, I'm very limited in what I can do. But when I start looking at that list of things that helps you determine if you have a PCOS diagnosis, so things like irregular cycles, struggling with weight is not a direct, like, this means you could have PCOS, but it's very much like a fills in a lot of gray area that would make someone lean towards it's probably PCOS and not one of these other reasons why you wouldn't be having a regular cycle. Looking at the ultrasound for the string of pearls, what that means is they're looking for follicles on the outside of the ovary that are kind of stunted in their maturing process. And so they're not growing to the point that they can be ovulated. And on the ultrasound, it looks like your ovary has a pearl necklace. So that's why I know you probably know that, Natalie, but just for if
Yeah.
somebody's never heard that before. So you're looking for that anovulatory cycle. You're looking for an ultrasound that's showing string of pearls. And then the other thing they're looking for is blood work that shows high androgens or a symptom picture, clinical things we can observe like facial hair or hair loss or extreme acne that would show a evidence of high androgens. You don't actually have to have them high on lab work to check that box. So you only need 2 out of those 3 to check the box. And she had 2 of those 3 checked that first time she wrote down on her notepad. And so to then tell somebody, go try for a year before you come back and get any extra help is really like a fool's errand that they send you on, because that doctor should be able to look at that and go, you are not cycling regularly. So you will have very few chances, if any chances at all, in if like this health picture doesn't change in any way, like we don't give you medicine that helps you ovulate, or we don't give you supplements that help you ovulate, or we don't adjust lifestyle things that can help you ovulate. She basically sent you to go waste a
Yeah.
year of your life, which
Yeah.
is incredibly disturbing from my perspective, because a doctor, and I'm not here to poop on doctors, I really am not. But if you're listening to this and you're in the same position, I want you to hear that you need help now. Like the idea of go try for a year and then come back is meant for couples who are regularly ovulating and regularly having intercourse, like in a frequent enough space of time. And that's if you're under 35, right? So like you fit that criteria, but you didn't fit the other criteria of like regularly ovulating. And so I really want to apologize, Natalie, on behalf of everybody that let you down, because
Thank
they
you.
shouldn't have sent you off for a year, you and your husband. Like that mental health, the impact
Yeah.
on your sex life, the impact on your heart when you see all these friends with baby announcements and having babies. Like you had a lot of heart life tied up in that year. And of course, you have this beautiful baby girl now, and we wouldn't want to change that piece of the story, but you were
Hmm.
not like treated in a medical treatment perspective. You were not treated thoroughly, and you weren't offered help in a great opportunity that you could have been offered help. And
Yeah.
so then you go do this year, you struggle, you come back and they find out, okay, yes, you do have the string of pearls. We're officially going to say it's probably PCOS. What did
Hmm.
that look like next? Did they offer you medicine? Did
Yes,
they?
they sent me to a fertility clinic. I spoke. Well, we met with I don't know the correct term of
That's
her
okay.
position,
Yeah, an
but
endocrinologist maybe,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. We her and she was like, okay, and she tried to explain to me what PCOS was. At that time, that first year, I was already going down many rabbit holes, Reddit, Instagram and all that. And I was just like, okay, I'm trying to find the teacher in me is like, I need to find something. I was
Mhm.
reading medical journals that I didn't know what they mean, but I was like, I'm
Mhm.
Googling these terms and I
Mhm.
figure it out. And same thing. I was excited. I was like, okay, this is her job. She's happy to help people. And I just felt fat shamed,
Yeah.
just completely fat shame. And I'm like, again, telling her all my story. I've been an avid water polo and swimmer my entire life. I've always been overweight. Like, my weight is just something I struggle with, but I've always been healthy-ish. Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
just look at my labs, and
Right.
But because I was overweight and considered like extremely obese for my BMI, they just kind of just tunnel vision that, and she just said, come back and lose 10 pounds and you'll see things work. And she drew this little diagram on a piece of paper, and she just said, your weight is causing your body not to ovulate. So that just added more guilt to me, because I'm like, oh my
Right.
God, I'm causing this myself.
Right.
And went back that day. We just had a 30-minute talk. Went back. It takes 2 months to see her.
Right.
Um,
Oh my
I
gosh.
saw her again 2 months, and that's when all the labs happening. She tracked my cycles. I would go every like twice a week just to track my cycle, where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
First we started with clomid. That was hell in itself, because I was teaching and I would have hot flashes. I was
Oh my
just angry
gosh.
all the
Yeah.
time.
It
It affected
definitely
my
impacts your
kids.
mood.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, it added more to my mental health, because I'm like, it's affecting my job. My kids don't deserve this. And,
Mm-hmm.
you
What
know, but I
grade were you
really want
teaching?
this baby. I was teaching middle school at the time. I teach high school now,
Uh-huh.
but I teach middle school at the time. So it
Oh.
was just a lot of like, get it together, get it together. Um, that didn't happen. My follicles didn't grow at the end of the cycle. So then she gave me the other medication that they
Letrozole?
wanted to uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And then she combined it with metformin.
Mm-hmm.
And metformin, she told me that metformin is used for diabetes, but it's also being used for PCOS to help with the
Mm-hmm.
sugar. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay. But metformin just affected my job. I was constantly going to the
Running to the
bathroom.
bathroom. Mm-hmm.
And based on my research, I found out about metformin extended release. And I
Mm-hmm.
asked her, I'm like, hey, the other one is affecting me. Can we get this one? And she was still very unsure. So she was like, no, give it one more try. And I was like, no, it's affecting my job. So that also surprised me, how a lot of, for example, my journey, I had a lot of people who were in the medical field who didn't trust what I was saying about my body. So that was the most frustrating thing, where I feel like I have to fight. Like, this is my body. I know what's
I'm
going on with
expert
my
on
body.
my body. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
I'm running to the bathroom with diarrhea. Like, I know
yeah,
it upsets my
yeah.
stomach. I know when I'm not taking
Hmm.
this medicine, I'm not moody or I don't get
Yeah.
headaches, and now that I'm taking it, it's impacting me this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sucked it up for another cycle, because I was like, okay, she knows, right? She knows
Mhm.
all the tips and tricks. She studied this for her life. Who am I to uh downgrade her studies? And I went
Mhm.
through it. I suffered. And my husband was like, no, don't do this. But I sucked it up, because like everyone who I think is listening to this podcast is like, this is gonna help me have a baby.
Right. Yeah,
And
cuz you'll
I
do
want a
anything.
baby. Yeah.
Nobody's more motivated than somebody trying to become a mother. Like,
Yes.
we are so glad you're enjoying this episode, and we want to take a brief moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Fullwell. Fullwell is not only a reproductive nutrition supplement company created and formulated by a registered dietitian, but they are a company that has the highest quality standards. They use the most bioavailable ingredients in the right amounts to ensure that you're getting the most out of your supplement. And let me tell you about one specific supplement, the Fertility Booster. The Fertility Booster is a combination of adaptogenic herbs and powerful antioxidants. Oxidative stress is something that occurs in every single body, and when it's accumulated, it can deplete antioxidants. Upping the antioxidants in the body by turning on the antioxidant protection system through food and supplementation is one way to support the body's free radical defenses and better support fertility overall. Oxidative stress impacts all humans, and this is one thing I love about the Fertility Booster. It helps supercharge both egg and sperm quality. You've heard about stress and how it can impact so many things in our body, and how so many people just say, hey, just relax and you'll get pregnant. Well, ashwagandha is actually an adaptogenic herb, and it can help reduce cortisol levels and increase sexual function. So the next time someone tells you to just relax, you can say, hey, no, I don't need to just relax. I'm taking the Fertility Booster by Fullwell and supporting myself in this way. When we talk about powerful antioxidants, one of them that is the king of the show is coenzyme Q10. In its reduced form, It functions as an antioxidant in cell membranes and lipoproteins, helping to optimize fertility. And the queen of the show, in my opinion, N-acetylcysteine. It's a supplement form of cysteine, a semi-essential amino acid that benefits fertility via its role as a precursor to glutathione. It can also support healthy cervical mucus. So, next time you're ordering your Fullwell Fertility Prenatal, make sure that you grab a hold of their fertility booster so you and your partner can get a healthy dose of these antioxidants and stress support. Use the code FFF20 at checkout to get 20% off your first order. And now back to our show. It's like it's that what you spoke of earlier in the podcast, like I'm a woman, it's like in me, like I have this like drive to become a mother, right? It's like you also, I think a lot of us are mothers before we're even mothers. It's like we have that mama bear just instinct in us. And so you're fighting for that baby that isn't even in your arms yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So around the third cycle, she's like, hey, the medication's not working. You're on high dose of we did clomid. That made me blind. And I forgot to add when I told him, like, hey, I'm seeing blurry. It's affecting my vision. They just chucked over the phone, like, oh, it's a side effect. Let's stop that medicine. But I was so heartbroken because it was like, you're canceling this cycle because of those results. And now I'll have to wait all over again. So, yeah.
My
Third
goodness.
cycle. Third cycle was already on shots. I was on ACG shots, and we did the trigger, and it didn't work. And the third cycle, I brought up Ovusense, and I told them, hey, this one, I think I liked it, this device. Like, can I show you? Can I just share with you the little PDF that they give you? And the nurse practitioner was like, well, you're doing everything here, so you don't need that. And so I returned the device again. Me in my head saying, okay,
this is the expert.
They know better.
Right.
They know better, right? So I returned the device. By the fifth cycle, I was on high dosage of whatever injection they give us.
HCG.
Mm-hmm.
So HCG is the same hormone that helps tell your body that you're pregnant, but it has, for the listeners, it has a benefit at timing. Like if you have a follicle that is ready to be ovulated, taking that hormone can help the follicle ovulate. So they use it as if it's like what people would call a trigger shot.
Yeah. So when I was doing that, we did that for 2 cycles. It wasn't working. One of the cycles we did, I grew too many follicles, so they had to cancel it. And just the symptoms of that was horrible.
Yeah.
Like just the bloating. Like I remember I couldn't even put on my jeans and a shirt, and I had to wear leggings, and I had to somehow tell my principal, hey, this is for a medical reason, and because they dress code us as teachers. So it was a lot.
Yeah,
I
it is
felt
a
really
lot.
alienated to my body. I was like,
Yeah.
this is so disconnected. And we did that a couple times, and then it started working, but I never ended up pregnant. So then we went to IUIs. I did 6 IUIs, and none of them stuck.
So at that point in the story, you are probably at least 2 years into this at this point, like having to do cycles getting canceled, prepping for the next one. 6 IUIs is 6 cycles of we harvested semen, we've given you medicine, we're triggering you, and we're introducing the semen. And none of that worked.
None of it worked. None of it worked.
And
The
then
one that we did, we were like holding our breath, it didn't work. And then COVID hit, and they stopped everything. And they told me, they're like, well, we did 6 IUIs. Studies show after 6, and if it doesn't hit, then your chances are just very minimal. And then I just went into a darker place at that, because here's this expert telling, well, this specialist telling me your chances are very slim. Like you're not going to be a mom if you don't go IVF. And IVF, the chances of that is much more slimmer, especially for someone with my body weight. Not only that, but just a economical factor that goes into that.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Hmm. We were very fortunate that our treatment was covered by our insurance, so we didn't have
Mhm.
to pay any of that. But just IVF wasn't covered,
Uh-huh.
and with the research I did, I already knew that I would probably not get accepted because of my body weight.
Mhm.
So throughout the whole treatment, I was really trying to lose weight,
Mhm.
but it wasn't just working for me. I think
Yeah.
it was the stress. It was just
It's also hard on those medications because of what they do to induce change in your hormones so that you will mature a follicle, ovulate a follicle. Some of the medicines themselves, estrogen, when your body makes a lot more estrogen, which is how some of those medicines work, your body holds on to water weight. And so, like, it may not even be like true weight gain, but say that you were losing weight because you were doing all these things, but you're holding on to a lot of extra water weight. You're not going to feel like the scale's even moving, even if it was. So it's a very hard time. I often I think about this recommendation that people get from their doctor, like go lose weight, but we'll also still do this treatment while you're trying to lose weight. And I understand that you don't want to waste time, but sometimes it's very defeating. It's like a defeating cycle for a woman because they're not even seeing maybe progress their body is making because they're on these hormonal medications.
yeah.
So what happened next? Where did the COVID hit? Did you get sent home from school too as a teacher?
Yeah, COVID hit the same month we were sent home to online learning, and the same month I found out like, hey, you have to look into IVF options. And me and my husband decided to take a break. We're just like mentally, he was like trying to keep it together for me, but I know it was really hard for him. Like seeing him, like he felt like he couldn't do anything. Like everything was going inside your body. Like seeing you how to
Mhm.
react to medicines and do all this, right? So we decided to take a break because we also didn't know what was going to happen because of COVID.
Mhm.
So we took a break. That's when I found Peloton and I ordered the bike and I was just like working out because the gyms were closed.
Mhm.
And then I kept going into like Reddit and like PCOS world. And then that's when I found your name. Someone mentioned your profile. You were up and coming during that time.
Yeah, I realized it
And
was a much smaller audience.
they
Mhm.
had your name and another PCOS person. And I remember I would like go back and forth between your profiles, and I would just be like, this one will be too difficult for me because I know myself. The diet will drive me crazy. Like I won't be able to sustain this my entire life. Um, but I will come in and out of it, you know.
Mhm.
And then 2021, I think that's when I started working on you. I spoke to my husband and I was like, hey, like I found this nutritionist on Instagram and I just have like this feeling like, can we pull money from our savings to buy to so I could join her course? And I was so like embracing myself and my husband to be like, you found her on Instagram? Like, how do we know if she's successful?
Right.
Like, you
Totally.
know, like, so, but I just have to think like God or anyone, like,
Yes,
it's just,
I think
he was
that.
just like, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. He's like, if anything, if he's like, it's a learning experience and it's better than what the doctors are saying right now.
Yeah.
Because I even made like this like presentation, like, hey, this is her Instagram page. Like, look at
You're so
everything.
cute. You're such a teacher.
Yeah, like I just had to like because I always felt like, okay, I need him to have him on my side, and I never
Yeah.
felt like that, but I just something in me was always like that. It was
Yeah.
like, go for it. And it
That's
was
so
around
great.
Thanksgiving. It was I remember the night we both did it. He was sitting next to me. I signed up, and it was just this exciting feeling,
Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
just like,
Hope kind
you know,
of like
yeah,
there was another answer, another avenue of pursuit that could keep this
not
dream alive.
but like a holistic pursuit. That
Yeah.
was where it was like all and he had the same concept. Like all our lives we told these doctors know everything about everything, and it doesn't turn out to be true. And before I came to your page, I read this book or heard this podcast as well because your podcast wasn't up And the only podcast that was up was this two Australian women, and they
Uh-huh.
were talking about food, and they were talking about how
Tea,
like
and I
yeah,
know what
all
podcast. They're very
yeah,
lovely.
yeah, they are. But I was like, I didn't resonate with them, and
Yes.
I was like,
Yeah.
this cannot. I have a crazy life. I cannot put
Yes.
up with all, And then, um, so I was like, okay. And then also because they were like so far away, I'm like, I don't know. I need someone to be like
Know my
close
American
by.
culture and life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So, but one of the ladies said that she, and I, this quote always resonates with me, and I don't remember it. I might say butcher it, but um, like doctors are trained to with one tool to hit the same drum,
Mm,
and she wrapped it around with like, we need, so don't beat on them. They were trained one way their entire life.
right.
So I was like, okay. So that's what kind of opened up the holistic, like, let's
Yeah.
go nutritional way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that that's a really powerful way to look at it because truly, I mean, if you step back, doctors have procedures, surgery, medicine. They can say something like, try this diet. And even if they know about a diet and know that it could be helpful, they have 8 minutes with you. Like they don't,
Yeah.
they have 40 patients a day, and they're not going to be able to lay out hours of educative material. And you're a
Mm-hmm.
teacher, so you like that kind of thing, right? Like you prepare those lessons, you would
Yeah.
probably learn and resonate with that too. So
Yeah.
that was November of 2021.
2021.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we worked. You sent over your information. Me and my husband were like reading it and watched the videos. And by December 20, I never sent you my food diary because I'm like, I'm not hitting everything she wants me to hit. And I just felt like a bad student. And I was like,
You're
I'm
so
not,
cute. Uh-huh.
And again, I was worried about being fat shamed. Although I was tweaking things, I wasn't like hitting the whole PCOS plate
Mm-hmm.
and how you say in your material. But I sent you everything else, and you responded with a comment, and you're like, "Hey, I do think you have IR based on your results." And at the same time, I was fighting my doctor because I wanted them to pull the glucose test, but they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't pull it because they did the other test.
They did
So,
A1C, so they weren't
hmm
interested in pulling gluten. So when
yeah.
she said IR, listeners, she's talking about insulin resistance. Um, and Natalie, I love you so much. You're like, I didn't want to share my food diary because I knew that there were areas to improve. And I think that that is like a really common um, concern where it's like, well, then I know I have this area to improve, and so like I don't want to get told that I need to improve there. I already know it, right? And
hmm
I see that a lot with people, not just about food, but it's like women's intuition is so amazing. So many times I work with clients and they come to me knowing exactly what they need to do. And sometimes they need me to give them permission to do it or need me to say, like, yeah, this is really going to help you. Like, let's focus on this. And then where I like to think a dietitian can really shine is like, this feels heavy or hard because either eating this other way doesn't sound good, or I don't have the skill to do it. I don't know how to cook a vegetable that way, or I don't know. And so sometimes being courageous enough to say, like, here's what it looks like, you might actually get help. So
Yeah.
I want to encourage you. I completely understand the reticence, like the wanting to kind of hold that back a little bit, especially with how you've been treated in a medical community.
We're taking a break from this episode to talk to you about one of our wonderful sponsors called NutriSense. So this isn't just another health trend. This is a program that helps everyone take control of their health and fertility by making lasting changes based on their unique needs. NutriSense is loved by over 100,000 members, and it offers a unique combination of expert nutritionist support from credentialed experts with continuous glucose monitoring data insights. So it's science plus a human touch, and it offers one-on-one support from the expert nutritionist team at NutriSense. So basically what NutriSense does is it gives you the support you need along with the data that you're getting from a continuous glucose monitor. Combining those two together with NutriSense offers you a science-backed way to take control of your health unlike anything else out there. It's access to the continuous glucose monitor as well as guidance from a nutritionist so that you can interpret this data and turn it into lasting results in your body. If you've listened to this podcast for more than 90 seconds, you know that we really don't believe in like a one size fits all nutrition plan, and that things really need to be tailored to an individual for their personal health and fertility goals in order to succeed. And that's really what NutriSense offers. If this sounds like something you're interested in, which P.S. you should be interested in this, head over to nutrisense.io/FFF and use the code FFF50 to get $50 off your first month with NutriSense.
But I also want to say, like, I often joke, like, if I meet people and they're like, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm a registered dietitian. It's like, I get one of two responses. One is asking about like the diet their mom, sister's, daughter's friend did, and should I be doing it? Like, what's the newest diet trend? And then the other one is like, immediately I become a food priest, where it's like, I ate a donut this morning, and then we like make a face like, I know I shouldn't have done that. It's like, was it good? Is this a new donut place in town I should try? Like, I eat donuts too, so to take some of the fear away. But so we zeroed in on insulin resistance, and like that, a lot of times you can see fingerprints of it in lab work, even without the perfect labs that I would love to look at. And I'm sure we were seeing that. Did you ever talk your endocrinologist into an extended release metformin? I can't remember if you did. And
but
did you
it
respond?
still didn't help.
It didn't help. Okay.
No.
So metformin wasn't a great option for you, period.
No, it wasn't. So we're already working together. Everything communication was online. So you did say, yes, I do think you have IR. Focus on a heavy protein breakfast. I ordered the medicines that you told me.
To probably like a myo-inositol,
that one,
maybe NAC or berberine on top of it.
NAC, berberine, and there's another one. Forget, but there was about 4.
Okay.
It was before you came out with your own product line. So I had so I started taking them. My husband bought me a kit from Amazon, and like he'll fill up my pill.
Oh, I love that. He was in it with you.
Yes, he was. Now that we're out of it, because at that moment I really felt alone.
Yeah.
And it's like when I did open up to my family about it, my sisters had babies, but they were not planned. And here I am. My story is so different. Right. Like, we want this baby, and you would get the cliches like, oh, don't stress about it. It will happen.
Yeah.
Or when the time is right.
Aren't actually helpful.
Yes, and you're just like, girl, if you knew how many times I try to meditate, and yeah, and it's like just making you more rage inside. So, and I was the only one in my friend group that didn't have a baby. Everyone else had a baby, So the the different side of the coin where it's like, we want this baby. We're really planning that, like, oh, we had an oopsie baby. So it was just different stories. That's what we implemented. High breakfast, my husband would do chia seed pudding. I remember I said I ate a lot of oatmeal, overnight oats, and you're like, let's cut back on the oats, and then we just stuck to chia seed pudding. And then I started listening to your podcast, and I remember Sophia said, if you're having a mango smoothie for breakfast, I wouldn't prefer it, but if you're just having that, go for it. And then your next segment was about like the different type of fruits and berries, so we just stuck to blueberries. It was really like same breakfast every day for a while because I wasn't used to breakfast either. It was just get up and go. So the way we kind of bypassed that was like he bought me like a cute little hydro flask cup thing, and on my way to work I was eating it, or as I'm doing like warm-ups with my kids I was eating it. So then my body got used to like exactly 9:00 breakfast. Like and then noon we did the PCOS plate, like a bunch of greens, That's where I found my love for Brussels sprouts
Oh, I
and
love Brussels sprouts.
salmon. Like that's
Uh-huh.
all I did, and brown rice.
Like such
And
good fertility foods. So like if you're going to pick something to have on repeat, like you did great. Those are all of those
yeah,
are so great.
yeah. My husband was like he went because at that time there was that other famous. They're famous now because they also struggled to have a baby on Instagram,
Uh-huh.
and I think he was a chef and he was making food
Yes,
for
and he
her.
cooks for his wife. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he was like he would just follow some of the stuff he did,
I
and
love
he
that.
cooks at our house. So
I love
um
that.
for dinner it was brown rice and like sometimes steak or you know he got rid of all the white pasta. It was all
Like
like
garbanzo
he did.
bean or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
don't
So
get me
some good
wrong, trying.
swaps.
Yeah, good swaps, but it does take a hard hit on your palate. You
Yes.
know it's not white
Yes.
enriched pasta.
Right.
So but yeah, and then by December 21st, I ovulated. That's the first time I ever ovulated, just 1 week, 1 month from working with you. And it was just a surreal moment. It was just like, I remember we were celebrating our anniversary and we're annual pass holders for Disneyland. And I had the OvuSense. And I tracked the next day. The chart just like was like, oh, you ovulated on December 21st. And I remember looking at my husband. I was like, holy crap, I ovulated, and it was just such like this like
Magical place on earth. Magical ovulation.
yeah, like it was just like so surreal. And we're both like so excited, you know. And then for people who don't know, being in the TTC world, you're like, oh, but what? But for people who have been struggling to ovulate, man, that's a game changer.
Yeah, right. Because
Yeah,
you just literally got handed the keys to get pregnant. Before, egg
yeah.
was not available to meet sperm. And now
Mhm.
you've got an egg that's leaving home plate and heading to first, right? Like it's like on
Yes,
its journey.
yes, yes.
So
And it was just this
amazing.
amazing thing, and we were just like, holy crap, Caitlin does work. Like I remember we both said that. Yeah, we're
It's
like,
not a
wow.
scam.
Yeah, we're like, wow, this is amazing. And the next one, ovulation, same day. Same day, everything I just became regular. Um, then that's when I was like, okay, I need to up my game on knowing like my luteal phase, all of that. And I just became a regular of like listening to your podcast, reading everything you would post, or even Sophia, like
Mhm.
um and that was just my world for the next 5 months. And the OvuSense was very helpful too because
Yeah, you got data. It was data
yeah.
showing you where
Mm-hmm.
you were ovulating, what the health of your luteal phase, like once you have those temperatures, OvuSense is one of the like quote unquote wearables for you to get your basal body temperature. It's one of the most accurate ones because it's actually an internal temperature. So like an oral thermometer. OvuSense, they also now have a wearable one, but it's actually, I like to say, an insertable because it's one that you insert in your vagina and you sleep
Yeah.
with it, almost like a tampon kind of. But actually it looks like a sperm. It's like this little
Yeah,
bulb
it's a
with a
little spermy.
string. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
So we actually bought it 2 years before, and no, a year before after we stopped fertility, and I would just have these long cycles, like 80-day cycles. And the one time I would never ovulate, but I would just bleed for one day, and it would
mhm.
be brown blood,
Mhm.
or I'll have like like the longest cycle I remember was 95 days,
Mhm.
and the it was nasty what came out of me because
Yeah.
it was just so old blood, and I was like,
Yeah, it's
it's like
slow
when you change the
moving, it's
oil. Yeah,
oxidized, it's not like a big flow of like, let's get rid of the whole uterine lining. It's just like it got so bulky, some of it let go. It's like the stuff that can't
yeah,
hang on anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't have
um
this like vibrance to it that a true
mm-mm.
period would have.
Yeah, December we ovulated, January we ovulated, and by February my sperm I started to be able to identify what was good,
Good
stretchy.
cervical mucus. Uh-huh.
Yes. And then by that time I also knew that my cycle I would have patches of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to really like focus, like pay attention. Okay, which is good. So I
Mm-hmm.
try to practice doing the fingered insert and doing
Mm-hmm.
all that. And then I will knew when I would be getting my period because my body would change the week before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just like,
You could tell
you could tell.
hormones were
Yeah.
happening and
Hmm.
changing. And so
Yeah.
when did you actually conceive baby girl?
March.
March.
So November, December, January, February, March. 5 months working with you.
And
March
that's
on my husband's birthday.
on your
Yeah.
husband's birthday.
Looking
No
back,
way.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, his birthday
amazing.
week.
Yeah, I love that. What a present. You got your first
Yeah.
ovulation for Christmas, and then you
Mm-hmm.
got
Our anniversary too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So it
love
was just
that.
like, and then we found out on my birthday month. So it was
Oh,
just like
so
everything was like,
surreal.
yeah.
And so I've said baby girl and alluded to it a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about being a mom. Tell us about what this
It's a
journey has been
whirlwind.
like on the other side.
It's a whirlwind. I think the journey continues. Like we
Yes.
wanted this baby so much. We struggled, right? And it just the struggle continues, but now you're struggling for something that you were wanting so hard and you endured
You worked
so much.
so much for
Yeah,
it.
and you're enduring it now, but like here is the prize, right? And this
Mhm.
is like it's a lot of navigating. You do need a village to help you out as much as possible.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, uh, the little bit that I did share about my story on Instagram with my baby and I tagged you with it, that's when my inbox just got flooded with a bunch of messages. And I was just
Saying
like,
people had similar
yeah,
stories.
yeah. Or one of them, like, how did she help you?
Mm.
One of my good friends from middle school, she just stopped all carbs. And I was like, I
Mhm.
don't know how you survived.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know
And I was like,
either.
I couldn't.
I
And
wouldn't want to live.
yeah, yeah. So just I would be like, okay, go. Here's her information. She's amazing. Go talk to her. Da, 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 right. And
Mhm.
so it was just, yeah, it's crazy. Motherhood. It's fun, tiring. Um,
It's the
I should
best
have
kind of
slept
hard you
more.
ever have, right? Like
Yeah,
it's the best kind
yeah,
of hard. I always think about our story, it took us 3 years to conceive Fiona, and I wouldn't wish those 3 years on anyone as much as like I feel like it has made me a better practitioner and show up for women in
hmm,
this time of their life. But I also can't imagine any other baby than Fiona. Like, when you get to the other side of it, which somebody else is looking from this side of the storm, going like, okay, what were the
yeah,
secrets Nataly had that she implemented that only 4 or 5 months later she was pregnant? And like, you're looking for that on that side, but like on the other side, you're like, oh, but it had to have been Fiona. It had to have been, it's an interesting feeling on the other side than seeing others going through the story and being like, just hang on, hang. You'll,
yeah,
once you get there, it's going to have always been so worth it. I know it's so hard, but just keep fighting.
yeah. I think I would hate anyone to kind of compare their journey with mine. I think it's so individual, the TTC journey. Um, it's just I understand the loneliness and just feeling broken,
Mm-hmm.
and it, I do have a similar feeling with you where I was like, if it would metformin would have worked, all the medication would have worked, I would have had like a 5 or 6 year old by now. And then reflecting to it now, I'm like, no, like I don't know, it doesn't connect with me well.
Right. Yeah.
I just feel like that baby was always meant to be mine. Like I just,
I
especially
know.
everything we went through with our pregnancy and all
Mm-hmm.
that, it was just like, and I didn't have the easiest pregnancy whatsoever, but it was still like I put in my body did what it needed to be done, and it was kind of just like the summation of like your body was never broken, your
Yes.
body just needed the
Say it
help.
louder. Like, you just needed
Yeah,
the right support. And so
yeah.
on this side of it, your body was never broken, man. We're going to name this episode that. But on this side of it, that gives me chills saying it out loud. So excited to tell you that the PCOS app is sponsoring this podcast episode. The PCOS app is a one-stop shop for all things PCOS. It's also your meal guide and inspo all in one. If you love listening to me on this podcast and you feel like, hey, I want Caitlin to be in my ear every day encouraging me about how to manage my PCOS, then you have to go download the PCOS app. We have curated articles to answer questions that you have about PCOS. There are short snippets in the PCOS Answers podcast exclusive to the PCOS app. We also have recipes where I not only give you the recipe, but teach you within the recipe itself what I have done to make it more blood sugar and hormone supporting so that you can take your own recipes and make them more PCOS friendly. If you've been looking for the Google of all things PCOS with the filter of compassion and expertise that you get from Caitlin Johnson, RD, then you have found it in the PCOS app. Head to your Android or Apple store today, download it, and let's hang out. Is there a trust and a respect and a love that you have for your body that was hard
Yes.
for you to have before?
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that.
When right before we conceived, my sister-in-law came out that she was pregnant, and it just shattered us
Yeah.
because for them it was just like
Easy peasy.
easy peasy, and they were like, we're gonna plan it right and poop it, and us were like, we are doing everything on God's earth to try to make it happen, and it's not working. And every lunch I would meditate, and I would talk to my body every morning
I
in the
love
shower.
that.
I would hug my body. And you have a podcast about this, an
Yes.
episode about just
Yeah.
manifestation. And it felt so weird. Every inch of my body was like, this is weird. We've never done this before, right? But I did it. I did yoga. I went off on hard stuff. I was hit kickboxing, Peloton, and I transitioned to walking, meditation, yoga,
You
and
created safety for your body, Nataly.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. I really do think so. And
Yeah.
I went on. I remember I put it on a comment. I was like, it really does work, because just a month after I conceived, I was just like, I don't know, I just hugging my body, looking in the mirror, and saying like, we could do this. You're not broken. We got this.
And now your daughter is a living reflection of that. She's
Yeah,
evidence that, and not just your body, Nataly, you are strong. You fought. You didn't give up. You have a husband that cooked for you and sorted
yeah,
pills for you and just loved on you, that didn't give up and fought through how sex changes and fought through, like,
yeah,
and there is a beauty that can come from like the hard and the ashes and the shadow side of infertility, and like a strength. Like I look at my husband and I'm like, we've done some really effing hard things together. You guys
yeah,
have, and you
yeah,
have that like closeness and that grit to your relationship that you wouldn't want somebody to have to go through, but since you have it, like, damn, it's
yeah,
nice. It's you, like,
yeah.
that man shows up for you.
Yeah, and especially like you see in movies that when a female can't have a baby, a man usually up and leave, right? And it's like that was an anxiety of mine. It's like, what about, and then me somehow, like when she told me you need IVF and it not working, and it made me like, why, I don't want to hold him back and not have any kids,
Yeah.
so there was a thought of like, we would separate, go have your family, because I don't want you to hold you back. But
Right.
no, he was like, I don't need a kid. I'm fine.
I need
He
you.
never shamed me. Yeah, he
Yeah.
never made me feel like how I made myself feel at that time.
Oh, I just love your story, Nataly. It's so, thank you
I know.
so much for sharing it. Do you want to share anything about your baby girl?
Yeah, her name is Rosalia Esperanza. Her middle name means hope, because we struggle to conceive. And my favorite character in the book is called Esperanza Rising.
Oh, I love
So, and the people who know our story, it's like, oh my God. And then who knows our story after, it's just, yeah.
that. It's so beautiful. So, Nataly, I just want to once again confirm how much I love you and how thankful I am that you let me be a part of your journey in a small way, that
It was a huge way. At one point, we were like, "Are we gonna name this baby girl Caitlin?" You
What do
know,
you
like.
remember when you told me her name? I was like, my name's Caitlin Rose, and so I'm gonna pretend you named her Rosalie after me. Do you remember when I
Yeah,
said that?
yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
So I
because we
took
were
it, whether you meant to
now.
or not. Um,
Yes, because right when I found out pregnant, you're like, go get these tests, and we did the fertility cloud and all that,
uh,
So yeah, it was just crazy, and it's the first time I ever see you in person.
I know. It's wild,
We
huh? We can love each
we
other so much through
yeah,
Facebook.
we made a baby happen. Viva comment, so people
Yes.
don't. Yes, the
High
program
five on
works.
that. I
Yeah,
love you, Natalie. Thank you
I
for
know.
being
Thank you so
so
much.
generous to come on here. You've made my day just being able to see your smiling face. So,
Okay.
what's your yeah, girl?
My yeah, girl is just not giving up on myself, and that my
Yes.
body isn't broken, and
Yes.
like you can make things happen on the internet. Like don't be so doubtful. Yeah, don't be so scared, but it happens. It's a success story.
I
Yeah.
love that. Okay. My yeah, girl is that I went um on a breakfast date today. We're recording this on like a federal holiday on Labor Day. And so my husband was off work and all three of my kids slept at grandma's house last night. So we like laid in bed and watched movies, stayed up way too late, slept in, went and got breakfast, and we had a really fun time. So yeah, girl. Keeping marriage
Yay.
alive too.
Self-care.
Yeah.
Thank
Um,
you.
so
Yeah.
we will wrap this up, guys. But if you have enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with a friend, like us, rate it, whatever. We just want to help more people like a Natalie and like you listening. So help us get the message out.
Hey, it's Sophia. If you love the show and want to continue your health and fertility journey using our resources, head on over to foodfreedomfertility.com for show notes, links to products and services, information about our guests, and our newsletter. Again, that's foodfreedomfertility.com. Thanks for listening.